Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about a group of baits that I don't think is getting nearly enough attention nowadays. But when I was first starting to take tournament fishing seriously back in the early 2000s, this was a category that was actually probably at its peak. I mean, there was a lot of different baits coming out, and you were seeing a lot of tournament wins, especially during the summertime. You know, in the summertime, you got a lot of fish that, especially the dog days of summer, you would think that the dog days of summer they'd all be deep, but once it gets really hot and some of the oxygen is being depleted in the deeper depths, up shallow is one of the places that fish start to congregate. So you see a lot of people, especially back in the day when the classic was during the summer, you'd see a lot of those classics one shallow, like really shallow. And in fact, I do remember a couple where this category of baits was actually a factor. And the baits that I'm talking about are little tiny wake baits, what I call the traditional wake bait. Okay, you got this right here is a man's 1-. It is ugly right now. It needs to be cleaned. It has seen a lot of action. Nowadays, it seems like everybody talks about this style wake bait, which this one right here is the Spro, what is it called? Zero Minnow. I don't throw a whole lot of these, to be honest with you, these long style wake baits, and these are more of like a pre-spawn, type bait. I don't think that a lot of people throw them during the summertime as much, but this is kind of, here in Tennessee, a lot of people throw them in that springtime period. But these little wake baits right here, these little round, compact crankbaits that just are working, in that, if I can get this in focus, working in that real shallow zone. These baits are really killer. And if they are the right design, essentially what these baits are designed to do is they're designed to just have a big enough bill at the right angle to put the nose down underneath the surface while the tail is just barely kind of creasing the surface and creating kind of that wake look to the surface. So it's not quite like breaking the surface, but it's creating that nice subtle wake on the surface, and it's perfectly suited for really ultra shallow. The type of areas that these are really productive are areas that are really close to the main river, main lake area, maybe shallow flats, shallow pockets, and places like that. Maybe there's a little bit of grass that's growing, subsurface, but it's a little bit too high to throw a crankbait that dives any deeper. Anytime you've got those fish on any of these shallow areas where a traditional crankbait is just going to get fouled up or just dig into the bottom too much, a wake bait like this is going to work really well. So here are some of my favorites. Some of them are newer, some of them are a little bit different, but the first two are my old standbys. I just took the treble hook off of that somehow. But anyways, here is probably my favorite of all. This right here is the old classic Storm Subwort. Come on, get in focus there. Yeah, that Storm Subwort, that right there is such a classic. That is a collectible right now. But that bait right there has probably one of the best wake bait actions on the market. This one right here is also a big fan favorite. Back in the day, back in the early 2000s, this right here is a man's 1-. Made a lot of money off of that. Has another really good action to it. This one right here is a new bait. This is the Berkeley Wake Bull 60, but is also made to kind of achieve the same thing. This bait right here, this is kind of like, this is a little bit different for me because a lot of those, the crazier baits that you see from Japan, I don't generally tend to adopt. But this one right here, the Depths Buzz Jet Junior, is actually a pretty cool bait. So this one right here, you've got that wake bait lip, but you've got this little prop on the back. So the prop actually spins and creates a little little bit of spitting and sputtering as it's you know, waking on the surface, and I've caught a lot of fish on that. But in general, these baits, you know, if you fish them like you would fish a topwater up shallow, you know, I'm using like probably 15-pound test monofilament to keep that bait from wanting to pull down, you know, using a buoyant line. And I'm usually fishing like a 7.3 medium heavy bait casting rod versus series, and probably just a regular, you know, whatever reel you use for a crankbait. A 6.6 to 1 gear ratio is probably going to be the one that I'm going to be reaching for these. But you're essentially just casting them out on these shallow flats and bringing them in, and this is a depth zone that not a lot of people focus on this time of year. And when you pair it with a bait that really nobody throws nowadays, you could probably do very, very well with these baits on any of the lakes that you're presented with on your home lake. So I know for a fact in the south during the summertime that these wake baits do really good, and I also know for a fact that up north on shallow flats, around, you know, sparse vegetation, or even on rocky flats, these work really good too. Because on our little lake in Connecticut, I used to just absolutely hammer them on these baits. But this is a category of bait that you cannot afford to you know, forget. These little tiny wake baits, just like this this one right here, this little gem. This has caught a lot of fish and is going to continue to catch a bunch more fish. Obviously you need to put another treble hook on there, but that little subwort is one of the key players in my tackle box on the wake bait side. So anyways, guys, I wanted to just kind of remind you that these little wake baits, these little summertime round bodied wake baits, are still the deal, and you need to be throwing them. I especially like to throw them on days that are you know, that you'd throw any topwater. Maybe it's a little bit more overcast, maybe it's rainy. Rainy days are actually some of my favorite for fishing one of these little subwarts or 1-minuses, any of these little wake baits. Rainy days, they absolutely crush them on these shallow flats. Not so much a technique I'm going to be using when it's just absolutely just super sunny, a lot of light penetration, but I am going to be using them on those days that are a little bit cloudier. Maybe you got some rain and a light wind. You don't want too much wind either. You want just enough ripple on the surface to kind of break things up, or for it to be flat calm, you know. So you don't want a lot of wave action with these wake baits. You want to be able to actually see the wake that this thing is emitting. So anyways, guys, just a friendly reminder, don't forget about your friendly neighborhood wake bait during the summertime. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about these baits, and if you've caught them or if you've kind of forgotten about them over the years. I really like to hear all your comments and questions below. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'll see you out on the water.